it's good afternoon here Eastern time, but good morning to many of you. Good late morning. I want to welcome everyone to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. My name is Jerry Shockey. I oversee all the youth and educational programs here, and we are delighted that you guys could connect in here for our Heart of the Hall of Famer series that we, for the past 2 years, have been featuring Hall of Famers on a regular basis for you guys to learn about what it took to get in the Hall of Fame beyond just the athletic ability. We know our Hall of Famers are great examples of athleticism, but it took more than that to get into the Hall of Fame. And at the basis of that is their character, and many of those pillars that you guys are discussing, the 6 pillars of character, the trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship, those are at the core of what makes our Hall of Famers great. Because it can be said that if their God-given ability wasn't in football, that they would have gone on to excel at other things in life, because at the core is their character. And many of them, in this case, Mr. Wright that we have here with you guys here today, is an example of someone who has achieved greatness not only on the field, but as you'll hear in a minute as I read his biography, has achieved as good or even not better things off the field with some of the things that he does, especially his charitable activities. So we are excited to bring this opportunity to you guys, as students all across the country here today. Before I ask Mr. Wright for some remarks, I do have to thank some folks to help make this possible, because we are excited to be able to bring this to you guys. As first and foremost, we need to thank our friends at Fort Worth ISD. I know Lee McChesney and Becky Navarre and Hector. Forgive me, Hector, I'll probably mispronounce your last name. Sarabia? Did I get that right, Hector?
That's fine.
Good.
Oh, that's fine.
Yes.
Okay, that means I was wrong. That means I mispronounced it, but that's okay. Thank you, Fort Worth ISD and the administration there for opening your doors, and Arlington Heights for opening your doors and allowing Mr. Wright the opportunity to come in here so we could do this broadcast with students across the country. So thank you. Would not have been possible without you. And we always have to thank our friends at ETech Ohio through our State Department of Education here, because all these Heart of the Hall of Famer programs that we do all across the country on a regular basis, they are the ones making the connections possible with us and all the sites across the country. So I know Jason, Josh, and Mark, you guys work hard behind the scenes to bring these programs together. So thank you very much for all your hard work. We have to thank the teachers for all the schools, because you guys have done the grunt work, so to speak, prepped your students, made the arrangements in your labs, tested the connections and all those things that have to take place to make these programs happen. So thank you to all you folks out there. But last but definitely not least, we have to thank all these students for participating, because you guys have done the prep work. I've seen the questions that you guys have submitted in advance. Some great questions that I think you guys have for Mr. Wright today. So I'm really excited to get started. So I need to thank you guys, all the preparation and hard work that you guys did. And I think those are probably 2 words that you'll probably hear Mr. Wright share today as we talk about character, preparation, and hard work. I think you'll hear those things come up again throughout the program. But thank you again for your hard work. But what we want to do is give every school an opportunity to give a little shout out for your school. So when I call upon your school, I'm going to ask you to go ahead, and I apologize, teachers in your classrooms across the country, close the doors. If you can't close your doors, and I just apologize, because you got kids shouting in your building right now. Just blame it on Jerry at the Hall of Fame. But what we want to do is give the opportunity for these students to give a shout out to show school spirit, not only so Mr. Wright can see you guys, but also so all the other schools that are tuning in can see and hear you guys as well. So first and foremost, we're going to start right in the same classroom as Mr. Wright. I think he has a group of students sitting right in front of him at Arlington Heights High School. Without blowing Mr. Wright's eardrums out, do you guys want to give a shout out there? Go ahead, Arlington Heights. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that, Arlington Heights. And I haven't heard a peep from you in the background, so you guys are some well-behaved students for this broadcast too, so I appreciate that as well. And thank you, teachers there. Let's go, we'll stay in Fort Worth. Let's go to Tidwell Middle School. Go ahead and give a shout out if you want to unmute your microphone. Oh, I see a little Fort Worth rivalry there. It looks like Tidwell might have outdone Arlington Heights there. So thank you, Tidwell. Go ahead and mute your microphones. Let's go to the state of Wisconsin, to Clayton Middle School. Go ahead and unmute your microphones. Give a shout out.
Hi. Hey, how's it going? Clayton High School.
That was pretty weak, Clayton. Let's try that again. Clayton High School. Clayton High School. No, still nothing? Okay, all right. Thank you, Clayton. And last but definitely not least, let's go to the Bradley Academy in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Go ahead, Bradley Academy. Thank you, Bradley Academy. I appreciate it. We'll again remind all the schools to keep your microphones muted so we can eliminate any distractions throughout the programs. And even when we do call upon you to go to your questions, even immediately following your question, if you can go ahead and mute your microphone after that as well, so we can make sure, again, that we can eliminate any distractions during the program. So with that being said, I would like to introduce our esteemed guest speaker here today before we ask him for his opening remarks, and that is Mr. Rayfield Wright. He was a Cowboys 7th-round pick in the 1967 NFL Draft. He earned permanent starting right tackle position in 1970. He's known as, you guys read this, he was known as a Big Cat. He earned first or second team All-NFL honors 6 consecutive times, and during that time was also selected to play in the Pro Bowl following each of those seasons. He started in 6 NFC Championship games and played, get this, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 Super Bowls Mr. Wright played in. He was named to the NFL's All-Decade Team of the 1970s, which is just a tremendous honor. And then obviously he received the biggest honor that an individual player can receive, and that was he was bestowed the honor of being enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2006. And as I said, we'd like to share not only some of the on-the-field achievements, but also the off-the-field as well, because I think you'll find Mr. Wright's off-the-field achievements are as good, if not greater than his on-the-field achievements. So let's learn a little bit more about him in that area. Since retiring from professional football in 1980, he experiences personal rewards working with children and at-promise students. Rayfield is one of the original founders of Kids for Tomorrow, a nonprofit organization of professional athletes who work with children from kindergarten through 12th grade. Other community contributions include the Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Say No to Drugs, the Boy Scouts of America, in which he achieved Eagle Scout status as a young man, Special Olympics, A Place for Grace, Make-A-Wish Foundation, and the Nelson Center. As a dynamic, inspirational speaker, Mr. Wright delivers powerful and mentoring messages to today's high school students and college athletes. He is also a motivational speaker to national and local businesses, churches, charities, and nonprofit organizations. Rayfield is currently the president of Team Wright Exploration, a minority-owned, all-inclusive oil production corporation. He is also the CEO of Wright Sports and Nutrition, the president of the Rayfield Wright Foundation, and the co-author of his autobiography titled Right Up Front. He has 4 children, 3 granddaughters, and still resides near Fort Worth, Texas. So before we ask him for his opening remarks, I want to show you guys a little clip of Mr. Wright during his playing days.
Taken in the 7th round in the 1967 draft, Rayfield Wright was given little chance of making the Cowboys' final roster. But number 70 defied the odds and became a member of the NFL's All-Decade Team for the 1970s. In Wright's 13 years, he played in 5 Super Bowls, winning 2 of them. The Big Cat's determination and commitment to excellence helped place his name with some of the best players to have ever played the game.
Okay, if all the schools can unmute your microphones for a second and joining me in giving a warm round of applause to Pro Football Hall of Famer, Mr. Rayfield Wright. We can have all the schools, if you can mute your microphones now, and Mr. Wright, the microphone is yours, sir.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I'd like to thank our Father in heaven through his Son, Jesus Christ, who have blessed me with the talent, skills, and abilities to be involved with the things that I'm involved in. And also, I thank all of the students who are listening to this program. And I also like to thank the teachers and the schools around the country that also are listening to this program. And I think we're going to have some fun. So I'm very, very excited about that. And I'm looking forward to it. You know, it's said that we are a product of our parents, and that our parents should teach us the way we should go. And as we get older, we should not depart from those ways. And I'm excited about that because we all are special, we all are significant, and we all are important. So there's a purpose and a reason why we all are here. And one of the most important things that we can always remember, and that is the importance of listening. And that is very, very important to the growth and development of each individual, including myself.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Wright. We appreciate that. And definitely I will be taking notes here, listening as well. So students, as you know, learning doesn't stop in school. It continues all throughout your life. And I have my pen and paper here because I love doing this program because I take notes and apply things to my life as well. So learning doesn't stop when you go, into K through 12. So Mr. Wright, we thank you for your opening remarks there. But what we're going to do with the students now, we are going to go in the order of Arlington Heights, which you'll have to speak up in the classroom just to make sure that we can hear you across the country. So make sure that microphone does pick up. And sorry, I got a phone call right as we're going. But Arlington Heights, we'll go Tidwell Middle School, Clayton Middle School. I'm in the middle of a broadcast, sorry. Okay, thank you. Tidwell Middle School and Clayton Middle School. I'm a professional, right? I've done this before. And Bradley Academy. So we'll go in that order. And we'll go one question from each round, and we'll work through as many times. We'll probably end up getting to connect into probably go 3 or 4 rounds throughout this program. So what I really encourage you guys to do, now think about this just for a minute before we go to these questions. There have been about 25,000 players that have played in the National Football League since it started in 1920. Now think of this, there are only 273 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and out of those, only 230-something players. The rest are coaches and contributors. So you are talking about one of the greatest players that has ever played in the National Football League. So this is your opportunity to ask him those questions like, what did it take to be great? What obstacles did you face in life? What recommendations, what advice do you have for us as young students? Because the one thing you'll learn is that Mr. Wright was just like you guys. He's a student that is facing pressures, obviously, whether it's peer pressure, whether it's from parents, whatever it might be, but he was just like you. Obviously, students today face a little different challenges than what students did in Rayfield's day, but still the same. There's still pressures. So I encourage you guys to ask those thought-provoking questions of Mr. Wright, so we can really get down to some good things here today. So with that being said, we're going to start in Arlington Heights with the students right in front of Mr. Wright. If you have a question for him, go ahead.
How did your football career help prepare you for a career in business?
My football career did help me prepare myself in business. And there are things that in football that you really learn, and one is teamwork. The other one is listening and working with others, because of the fact that you have to remember that you can't be successful in life by yourself. It takes people for you to become successful. And the thing that's really interesting, sometimes we find those individuals at the beginning of our life, sometimes we'll find them in the middle of our life, and sometimes we'll find them at the end of our life. But one thing that we don't want to find them is once everybody is gone. And that's one of the major reasons why football has impacted my life. And sports in itself has impacted my life, because I played a lot of different sports, and it's the same thing as it is in football, and also the same thing in business, because business operates under the same atmosphere as sports does. You have the coach, and you like as the president of a company, and you have the employees as players of a company. So the importance of players and the importance of employees working together, understanding each other, exactly what the goals are, then that company will be successful, and a football team will be just as successful.
And that's a message that we try to share at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and you'll note in our mission statement, one of the missions of the Pro Football Hall of Fame is to promote the positive values of the sport, and that's exactly it. Is that football is a great parallel for life and for businesses and for how families run. I mean everything. So as Mr. Wright just shared there, that it takes a team to run a business, to be in a family, to be in school or to be in to play in the NFL and to win championships. So I think that's a great example of that. So Arlington Heights, thank you for the question there, and let's go to Tidwell Middle School. Go ahead with your question. Tidwell, you guys are not there.
Do you have any regrets about not playing basketball but instead going into the NFL? Louder.
I really did.
Do you have any regrets about not playing basketball but instead going to the NFL?
Jerry, you want to help me out with that question?
I think I caught that because I was having trouble too. Do you regret not playing basketball and pursuing your career in the NFL? So I guess, do you have any regrets?
No, I have no regrets, because when opportunities come your way, you just don't have any idea knowing exactly what that opportunity might be. But you have to prepare yourself for any opportunities that will come your way. Now, I went out for football in high school, and I couldn't even make the high school football team, believe it or not. So I became a basketball player. And the interesting thing about basketball is that it taught me how to become an offensive lineman. And that was something that I have never, ever played in my life. And this is something that also relates to business, because sometimes you are moved in business from one position to another position. And I made the Dallas Cowboys as a tight end. And after 2 years, once Roger Staubach came to the club, Coach Landry called me in his office and said, Rayfield, I'm going to move you from one position to another position by moving you inside to offensive tackle. Now, that was kind of strange and very, very interesting, because as a basketball player, I averaged 28 points a game and 21 rebounds for 3 years at Fort Valley State College. So my whole focus was on basketball, and that's what I really wanted to play. But the opportunity that came to me was in football, because I had two opportunities, one in football and one in basketball. And basketball was where my heart was, even though I played football in college. But I was looking for playing with the Cincinnati Royals, because that's who were looking for me to be a part of their team. And that was my junior year at Fort Valley State College. And I told them that I had made a commitment. Now listen carefully. I had made a commitment to some people back in my hometown that gave me the opportunity to go to college, and that I would not drop out of school, and that I would keep my grades in perspective, and they would have to wait until I graduated from college. And the interesting thing also is that they congratulated me. Now, this was in 1966. They congratulated me because I made the decision to stay in college and receive my college degree. Now, football, I played in college. My senior year, I'm still thinking about basketball. My senior year, the Dallas Cowboys drafted me to play for them. Now, that was not my interest at that time, but it was an opportunity. So sometimes in life, you're going to receive opportunities, and you have to have prepared yourself to advance in those opportunities. And a lot of times we don't prepare ourselves because we think the fact that because you are this or because you are that, that you do not want to change or give yourself an opportunity to advance in a different level and or a different position. So I went inside, and as basketball players, you always used to handling the ball, scoring points and so forth. But once you move inside, you don't get that opportunity to put your hand on the football again, on the ball, to score points for your team. So in comparison with both sports, the dedication, the commitment, and hard work and teamwork And most important, the fact that we listen to elders and those that are older than we are, because they have the wisdom and the knowledge to help you make the right choices and decisions in life. And that is where I am with that.
And students, there are a lot of things that I pulled out of there, but one in particular is, he said he obviously listened, but he reiterated about being prepared for when opportunities arise. And I'll give you guys a great example of that in the NFL, since most of you follow the NFL. I'll give you a great example of that. If you think about Tim Tebow or Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers sat behind Brett Favre for all those years, a legend in Green Bay. And as soon as the opportunity arose, you know that Aaron Rodgers was prepared and ready as soon as Brett Favre left, that he was going to step in, and look what he did. Same thing with Tim Tebow. Set the bench last year and kept preparing, kept getting ready, and as soon as the opportunity came, look what he did. And that applies to, as Mr. Wright said, to every element in life. And being prepared in school, being prepared at home, being prepared at your job, being prepared at anything that you do. And if you're prepared when those opportunities arise, you are going to be able to capitalize upon those opportunities. So thank you, Tidwell. Let's go to Wisconsin and Clayton Middle School.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was a typical week like as a player in the NFL during the season?
Well, a typical week in the NFL, as far as the Dallas Cowboys was concerned, we would have Mondays off on a Sunday game, and then we'll come back to work on Tuesday for offensive day. Then on Wednesday, we would have defensive day, and on Thursday, we'd have short yardage and goal line day, and on Friday, we would have special teams. Saturday, we would travel, and Sunday, we would play the game. Now, that is the schedule that we went through for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, other teams may have a different schedule that they go through, but that was ours. And what it really did for us was it gave us an opportunity to not only look at on films the players that played the other team, but it gave us an opportunity to, again, prepare ourselves, because no team and all the players on the other teams, they don't play the same. So we spent more time in the classrooms than we did on the practice field, because that's very, very important. And you study the players that you're going to play against, because they all have different tendencies that you have to prepare yourself for. And each player that you play against have a different agenda in trying to defeat you, and that's why preparation is so important.
And thank you, Clayton. And let's go to Tennessee at Bradley Academy. If you guys have a question, go ahead.
We do.
What was the turning point in your life that took you from trying to reach your goals to a feeling of total success?
You're going to probably have to repeat that.
We'll try it one more time. Here you go.
What was the turning point in your life that took you from trying to reach your goals to a feeling of total success?
Well, what was the goals? One of the things that were major in my life, and I can recall this, and that is my grandmother she used to get up every morning, and the first thing that she would do was get on her knees and say a prayer. And one morning, I got up with her, and I asked her if I could say a prayer that morning. And she said, "Yes, son, go ahead." And I remember knowing what our personal situation was, because my mother and grandmother raised 4 kids. My dad was not in the home. So I asked God this question right here. I said that, please give me the ability where I can do something that I could help my mother and grandmother, and I could help my brothers and my sister, and I could help other people. And my grandmother looked at me and she says, "Do you believe in what you prayed?" And I said, yes, ma'am, I believe. She said, well, you keep that in front of you and don't you ever let it go. And today that is still in front of me, because what I have done is I have treated people just like I wanted to be treated. I have respected people that should be respected and those that shouldn't be respected. So overall, we all are special. We all are significant. And we all are very important. And that's one of the reasons why you're here. That's one of the reasons why you're in school, to learn, to listen, so you can prepare yourself for life. Because that's exactly how I was prepared to become successful in sports and also become successful in business. So I encourage you to do similar. Stay in school, get your homework, listen, and do the things that you should do that will help you become the person that you should become.
And Mr. Wright, I was talking with Jeanette before you guys came to the school today, and we started chit-chatting about. I think you got a great story to share about in a number of different ways, but your first start against a guy named David Deacon Jones that you might want to share with these students. And some of these students might know who he is. He's kind of the old guy that said he invented the term sack. He used to head smack play for the Rams. You guys probably see him on ESPN every now and again, or chiming in on something. But I want to share that story.
Well, you know, again, it's preparation, whether you have an opportunity to start or not. And I certainly did not know that I was going to start in that game, because Ralph Neely, our right offensive tackle, he was hurt and he couldn't play. So Coach Landry called me in his office and said, Rayfield, you are playing and you are starting today. Now, remember that I was in my third year, and Roger Staubach had just came to the ball club in 1969, and the gentleman that I had to face was the most feared defensive lineman ever to play in the National Football League at defensive end. And as you have said, one of the greatest moves back in those days, which is outlawed today, was a head slap. And what they would actually do would come across the line of scrimmage and actually slap you upside your head. And sometimes it was so devastating that your helmet would come off. And as studying him during the course of that week prior to playing the game, I'm asking my offensive line coach, Jim Myers, I'm saying, Coach, is that the gentleman that I have to block? And he said, yes, that's the gentleman you have to block. And one of the things offensive lineman is taught, and the most important thing is to listen outside of being prepared. Now, why is listening so important on the football field? And especially every position on the football field has to settle himself down, and he's got to listen. Now, the importance of listening is that your quarterback can call an audible. He can call a number, or he can call a color, and that play that has been called in the huddle will change to a different play. So you have to have a listening ear to recognize the voice of your quarterback. And you have to forget about the cheerleaders. You have to forget about the fans in the stadium, and you've got to focus on your job and also listening to the quarterback. Now, the first play of the ball game, I'm looking at this gentleman, Deacon Jones. Some of you may know him. I have heard of him. I'm looking at him square in his eyes, and his eyes was like red as fire. He was kicking his back leg like a bull, and I'm saying to myself, my God, what have I gotten myself into? And the ball was snapped on two, and right in the pause. Those that play football know when the quarterback says hut, then there's a pause between the second hut or third hut. Now, I'm focused. I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. All my audibles, I know my change-ups and everything. But the thing that he did was he broke my concentration. And this is one of the things that as students, we cannot lose our focus and we cannot break our concentration in the things that we're trying to accomplish in life for ourselves. And this, in between this little pause, this gentleman, Deacon Jones, made this statement. And I'm listening to my quarterback, and he made this statement. He says, Rayfield, and he said it in such a deep voice. And he asked me a question. And I was totally wiped away with the question that he asked. And that question was, he said it in such a deep voice. He said, boy, do your mama know you out here? And I heard it. So when the second hut came, I didn't hear it because I lost my focus. I lost my concentration. And as the ball was snapped, I was still in my three-point stance. And Mr. Jones came across the line of scrimmage, and he hit me and hit me so hard that I still remember that hit today. And my statement to him was, Mr. Jones, you don't know my mother, so don't talk about her. And if you want to play the game this way, we'll play it. And he did not touch Roger Staubach that day. I received the game ball, and I was MVP of the game. And that is a true story. The first time I ever started to play at right tackle and in the NFL. So in life, we're going to run against obstacles. And this was a tremendous obstacle for me because I had to make adjustments that I didn't know that took place at that position, the way that came to me, because losing your focus and concentration really causes you and sets you up for defeat. Now, once that comes and once that happens to you, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to continue to not prepare yourself? Are you going to continue to be soft and maybe the coach will take you out of the game? Well, life is that same way. We all want to stay in the game of life. And that's what I did.
Great story. Thank you, Mr. Wright. I greatly appreciate that. And I know the students there at Arlington Heights, if you guys have a question in the classroom, just go ahead and make sure again to speak up so we can hear it through the video conferencing system.
How can team sports help youth who are struggling in life or school?
How can team sports help me?
Youth.
Okay. Well, team sports is something that, I look at as an opportunity to develop certain skills of life. In sports, you cannot become successful in life by yourself. It takes people for you to become successful. And that's why listening is so important. And you learn from that. And in football, listening and being friendly and being associated with other players is the same thing in life. And you have to listen. And one of the things that helped me most of all was not just my mother and grandmother, but the people in the community in which I grew up in. Because as a Boy Scout, as you have said, and as an Eagle Scout, you listen to those people that are very influenced to be influenced in your life. And that was something that I did, and I wanted to listen because there was wisdom and there was knowledge. So we and myself, what we did and what I did was I went back to those individuals who have made certain statements to me, and I asked a question: why? Because if you don't know, then you ask the question. And people will always tell you how they feel, and they will also tell you negatives and positives. But the most important thing is that after you hear those, you have to make a decision. You have to make the decision. And that's one of the things that helped me a lot in my growth and in my development. Because if I didn't understand something, I'm going to ask. And it does not hurt or embarrass you to ask. Not even the simplest question that others may know the answer to, but you don't know the answer to, so ask.
And I think that is so important. And Mr. Wright's brought this up a few times, leaning on someone and asking questions. And it's funny, in sports, if we're having problems, with a free throw shot or something like that, we'll say afterwards, Coach, let's work on free throws, and shoot 100 free throws in a row to work on your mechanics. But in the classroom, for some reason, if we have trouble in a particular curricular area, science or math, because we all have different areas of struggling, we tend not to ask, because I don't know if we think it's, it's a sign of weakness or it's uncool to ask or whatever, but we all need someone to lean upon, and all of us have folks that in place in our lives, whether it's our teachers, whether it's our parents, they can help us through those areas and make us stronger, because it's not a weakness. The person that asks, I think, is a stronger person, is definitely a stronger person than the person that doesn't ask, because you're willing to grow, you're willing to challenge yourself, you're willing to learn, and you're willing to listen, as Mr. White has said. So I think that's a great point to bring up for all these students here today. Let's go to Tidwell. Tidwell, if you have another question, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, we're here. You're gonna have to speak up. Speak in there.
Okay.
I love you.
Why did you get into charity work?
One of the reasons.
Did y'all understand our question?
No, go right ahead again.
Okay, say it really loud.
Why did you get into charity work?
I think that was pretty loud, wasn't it? Well, one of the reasons that I decided to get into charity work is because of what all the people in my life had done for me. And I wanted to share those experiences with other people, especially the youth. Now, I recall certain situations in my life where I needed help. I needed someone not just to talk to, but I needed someone to help me understand life as life really is. So those individuals helped me in so many ways, and I wanted to pass that forward. And that's what I did, is that I wanted to create an organization that helped other people, other young people, to become better individuals in their life. And because of that, it enlightened my spirit to do the very best I could do in helping them. And it didn't make any difference whether it was financial or whether or not it was just sitting down having a conversation with them. With the charities of Rayfield Wright Foundation, we have helped 30 kids to go to college because they wanted to advance themselves in life so that they would in turn help other kids that are younger than they are. And that's very, very important.
And that's a great, great question from you guys as well. And that really emphasizes, was talking about these 6 core pillars, the fairness and the caring and citizenship, obviously. Mr. Wright feeling his, I'd say obligation to give back and allow other kids to benefit from his advice and his help that he can share. So with that being said, let's go to the next school. Let's go to Clayton, Wisconsin, Clayton Middle School.
What were the greatest challenges you faced in life, and how did you deal with them?
Well, in life, it's not an easy road in growth and development. Remember that life is like traveling down a highway. And down that highway, there are going to be curves, there are going to be hills you go down, there's going to be hills you go up, and there's also sometimes there's water that you cross. And during that process of going down the highway, you're going to run into different obstacles, and you have to have been prepared to face these obstacles. And sometimes you will fall off the road, off the highway, but it makes no difference how you fall off the highway. The difference is how fast you get back up and get back on the highway, because these challenges and obstacles that you are going to face, as I faced, are things that can stop you from becoming the person that you should be. Now, you look at these obstacles and you make a decision as to how are you going to adjust this obstacle, or how are you going to get around this obstacle. And you could even have obstacles with your teammates and also with other students who do not want you to become the very best that you can. So I took all of that in mind as I faced the different obstacles in life, because I was not going to let an obstacle keep me from becoming the person that I am. So you are going to face obstacles, no matter what in life. You're going to face them, but you can overcome those obstacles that you are facing. And that comes back to your dedication, your commitment, your persistence, your hard work. You can be the best person that you can be and overcome any obstacle that's out there that's going to front you.
And some of those obstacles give you a head slap and knock you on your rear end, right, Mr. Wright?
Yeah, but you don't quit. You never quit. You always come back. And you can do that as you face the obstacles of life.
And thank you, Clayton. Let's go to Bradley Academy. Let's go to Tennessee.
Okay.
Name the most influential player you played with and played against in the NFL.
Well, the most influential player that I played with was my teammates. And I can't single out one of my teammates, because as a team, each and every one of the players has a definite role in you becoming a winner and you becoming successful in life. And I could name players like Roger Staubach. I could name all of the offensive linemen. I could name the running backs like Tony Dorsett, Calvin Hill, which some of you have read about them and know a little bit about them. And on defense, remember that in life, there are different phases of life, and there's different parts of life. And now, turning to the defense has the same responsibilities in a way that the offense has. The offense scores touchdowns. The defense stops the other team from scoring touchdowns. And one of the strongest and lessons that I learned was about the defense, that they are going to try and do everything possible to break your concentration in becoming and in doing your job, your assignment in school that will help you. And so it's very, very important.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Bradley Academy. And let's go back to Arlington Heights in the classroom.
Who inspires you the most to become an NFL player with the Dallas Cowboys?
Who inspired me most to become an NFL player with the Dallas Cowboys? My mother and my grandmother, my Boy Scout master, my minister, teachers, and coaches that coached me from high school and in college. And they are the ones that instilled in me, because that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to play sports, because I knew that sports would be my way out. So they encouraged me in the fact that it makes no difference as to what level that you are entering. What makes a difference is how you prepare yourself to attack that and to be encouraged to help you make the right choices and make the right decisions. And once that choice is made, you give yourself every opportunity that opportunity has in front of you. And you focus on that opportunity. And until you become the person or the player or the employee or the student that will help you become successful. Football just happened to be one of the things that I decided that I would do. And instead of basketball, there were two options for me. One was basketball and the other was football. Now, Rayfield, why did you decide that you would play football? Football camp started in July. Basketball camp didn't start until August. So I had two opportunities. So what I did was I went to football camp first, and I was going to give it everything I had, which I did, even though I wanted to play basketball, but it was an opportunity. And as I talked to those individuals that was such a great influence in my life, it's an opportunity. Do the very best you can, and you don't look back. So I went to training camp. There were 137 rookies in training camp, first-year players. I was drafted by the Cowboys in the 7th round. Now, out of that 137 players, rookies, only 5 made the team. And I was one of the 5 that made the Cowboy team my rookie year. And those 5 players that made the Cowboys was a very, very important individuals that would help the Cowboys win ball games and go to the ultimate game in the National Football League, and that is the Super Bowl. And that's one of the reasons why I decided that I would play football after making the team, and I had to leave basketball alone.
And you know, as you heard Mr. Wright at the beginning of that talk about all the influential people in his life, you know, some of those were, fortunately for him, were some of those that were planted in his life, and others were those that he surrounded himself with. And it's so important. I've heard this reoccurring theme with all of our Hall of Famers is you know, who you surround yourself with. If you want to be the best football player, surround yourselves with folks that have that same goal of making you a better football player. If you want to be a better student, surround yourselves with people that have that goal of wanting to make you a better student. Better worker, same case. Anything you want to do is surrounding yourselves with people that have like goals as you do, and maybe even are better than you, that will challenge you to continue to strive. So, you know, it's important, you know, that we note that with all, you know, all the folks that are in our lives. Some, again, come into our lives and planted there. Some, we make the choice to bring them into our lives. So I think that's important to know. Let's go to Tidwell. Tidwell, do you have another question?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. What did you use for motivation on the football field?
You gotta say it louder.
Oh, okay.
What did I use for motivation?
Yeah.
On the football field.
On the football field?
Okay, the question is, what did I use for motivation on the football field?
Yes.
It motivated, the game of life motivates me to do the very best that I can do. And once you do the very best that you can do, whether it's on the football field or it's in the classroom, it's the very best that you can do. And those that are in front of you, and those individuals such as teachers and principals and coaches, they all influence you to be the very best that you can become. And your teammates also encourages you, because your teammates know what your abilities are, and they do not want you not to excel in what you're doing. So they reach out and they grab your hand and they help you along the way. And those are people and individuals who are concerned about you and who want to help you, and that motivates me in a lot of ways.
Okay, thank you, Tidwell. And let's go to Wisconsin again. Clayton Middle School.
When did you realize that you might become a professional athlete?
When the question is when I realized that I was going to be a professional athlete? Is that the question?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I wanted to become and prepare myself to become the very best player and the very best individual that I could be. I had no idea, never even dreamed of the fact that I was going to become a professional football player. That was so far away from my mind. But as life continued to go forward with me, after my preparation and dedication and commitment, I received the opportunity to play these different sports. And that was exactly what I wanted to do after graduating from college. Because in younger years of my life, I knew that sports would be my way out so that I could help my mother and my grandmother and my brothers and sisters, and I could help other people. And I focused on that. What I didn't focus on was changing positions from one position to another. But in my preparation, basketball really helped me to play the position that I played for the Dallas Cowboys in the National Football League.
And Mr. Wright, if you can comment on this, because I think it's important as we talk about, you've brought it up a couple times, doing your best. And even though we do our best, it doesn't always mean that we're going to win a Super Bowl, because you didn't always win a Super Bowl. Some you 5 Super Bowls, you didn't win all those. You might not go into Hall of Fame career. You might not get an A on that test that you did your best on. What can you say to students that encounter that?
Well, even though we try to do our best in every instance, that we try and do our very best. And as you have said, sometimes you don't make it to a Super Bowl because there are a lot of players that played a long time in the National Football League that never played in the Super Bowl. There are a lot of students that did not receive the highest grade that they could receive. And there are employees that, based on the goodness of their work, they may not change to another position. The thing that you have to remember is that you prepared yourself, you gave it the very best that you could do. And when you give the very best that you can do, whether you win games or you advance yourself in business or in the classroom, no one can look back and say that you did not give your best, that you tried very hard to be successful at whatever you are involved in. So always give your best. You may not reach the ultimate, but you know, and others will know, that you gave your very best.
Perfect, thank you. And let's go. I see we got about 5 minutes left before we close the program. Let's go to 1 or 2 more questions. We'll go to Bradley Academy. Bradley Academy, are you still there? Tennessee? Okay, we'll go Arlington Heights. Right there with Mr. Wright. I know you're not gone.
At what point in your life did you, if you only had 1 minute to spend in the life of a struggling student from a single parent home, what would you say to him or her?
First thing I would say to someone in that condition is I would remind them how significant their life is and that they are special, significant, and important, and they have a lot to do with themselves and with others. So again, you have to have the focus and you have to have the understanding that you are someone that is very special. It makes no difference where you're from. It makes no difference what the color of your skin is. It makes no difference how you look. You are special and you are important. And you can't use those situations to keep you back, because each and every one of us have been given certain talents, certain skills, and certain abilities. And you have to recognize those talents, those skills, and those abilities that you were blessed with so that you can excel yourself in life. And that was one of the things that I wanted to do in a single parent home.
Okay, and thank you, Arlington. And we'll go to the last question of the program. Tidwell Middle School, the pressure is on you guys. It's 4th down. The clock's ticking down. What are you going to do here? Let's go with that last question.
Why or how did you get the name Big Cat?
Great ending question. I love it. I love it.
That is a great question. One of the things and reasons why my nickname with my teammates was Big Cat is because of my quickness and because of my speed. And that was one of the things that Coach Landry recognized in my abilities, was the quickness and the speed, because we are all strong and physical. Even you women out there, you are strong in your own way with your abilities. And that was why now Bob Hayes, the fastest human in the world at one time, is the one that started calling me Big Cat because of my movement and because of my quickness. Now, I couldn't run as fast as Bob, but I could run.
All right, and thank you, Tidwell, for the great question. I like to end on that one. Now, Mr. Wright, are there any closing remarks you'd like to share with these students of maybe something we haven't talked about?
First of all, I'd like to thank the students for the questions that they ask, because they are very, very interesting and they are very, very good questions. And hopefully my answers to those questions will get you to think about the road that you are traveling in life. And there's a poem. I don't know how many of you are interested or have opportunities to listen to poems. So I'm going to share this, Jerry, with them. And it's a poem by Robert Frost. And this is something that, as we travel down the road of life, and I want you to listen to this poem very carefully, because this poem is something that I used in my life. And it goes like this. There was 2 roads in a yellow wood, and I'm sorry that I couldn't travel both. Being one traveler, long I stood, looking down the other as far as I could, to where it bent in an undergrowth, and took the other just as far, and having perhaps a better claim because it was grassy and wanted wear, knowing that the passing there had really warned them about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, yet knowing how way leaps on the way, I doubt that I shall ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. There was 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. That made all the difference in my life. I learned that poem in the 8th grade, and I know it will make the difference in your life.
Thank you. And students, let's unmute your microphones and let's give Mr. Hall of Famer Rayfield Wright a round of applause, please, and say thank you.